Okay, so you are putting it on me. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Look Into the Glass. I wasn't expecting that. I was trying to avoid it. I'm going to be completely honest, too. My name is Giselle, the one who wants to avoid. We have Sela today, and she's putting this on me. We're going to call them Z, but I'm going to try it. Gazit Chaya is here with us today. See, I did it. I'm proud.
I
And
swear
we're
people
gonna have
probably just listen to us for our freaking intros, man. Because we never have it together.
why would we? We're chaotic. Um, I will say today we're gonna have a different kind of conversation. This is a part of mental health that we have not yet discussed, and I'm really looking forward to this. Z is going to talk to us a little bit about their transformation and their story, and I'm really excited. I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Me, like your mom, or who?
You,
Me or your mom?
you, Z, me.
Me. Yay. Well, I'm just so honored to be here with you both. So grateful. It has been many months of trying to find a time that worked for all of us, and I'm thrilled that we lined it up and that we get to be exploring this one of my favorite topics, which is gender and what it means to folks, the way that it has um, really affected so many of our mental health, not just transgender people,
Yes.
and how these ideas, these constructs, affect all of us, both mental health wise and just spiritually in relationship, in terms of how we shape our lives and what we expect of ourselves and each other. Such a deep and complex subject. So really grateful that you're opening the community up to it and that I can be a part of the conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. We appreciate you being open to it. It's a very touchy subject that for a lot of people. And one thing with my mom and I is we do not want to offend anybody. We are open-minded people. We want to learn, and it's something that some people can't explain it into a way for us to understand. And I think you might just be that person.
If anybody's that person, it's you, Z. Because you're just so loving and just you have just such amazing energy about you, and you don't take offense to our ignorance or their lack of the knowledge. To be quite honest, to be, and I greatly appreciate that. As I'm sure quite many others do. you know because there is a lot, and it is such a touchy subject. And you get people that are either on one side of the spectrum and the other side of the spectrum. And here and looking through the glass, we just go, you're you, and we're just happy that you're being the best you that you know how to be. And that's all that we want, for every person, because that's what we want for ourselves. So we should want that for others. So
Hmm.
lead us into your story a little.
Yeah, well, my relationship with gender started the same way most people in our culture do, right? That sort of proclamation of gender that we put on people from the time that they're conceived, right? People want to decide whether they're going to find out the gender of their baby, is how most people say it. And what's fascinating is that gender is something similar to race that we have made up. It's just in recent history that gender has been made up as a concept. Sex is something that is a bit more measurable, but is still a lot more nebulous than a lot of people would like to believe. But gender is made up, and it was made up in the same way that race was made up. as a way to have more control over others. And it all came about sort of the same time. Race and gender were created around like colonialism, and when people were really wanting to monetize the slave industry. And it was a way to disconnect the spiritual empowerment from a lot of traditional societies. So I love the example of in the Yoruba culture, which is from like what we would call present day Nigeria. There's no gendered language. The gods have no gender in that culture, and the language doesn't either. And so the spiritual like empowerment came from the leaders in the community who were less less gendered, or less, you know, doing things in terms of what we would call now like queerness and transness. You know, they were kind of living beyond gender. Um, and those people were the source of like spiritual leadership in those communities. Traditionally, it was the queer and trans people, how we would call it now, who were
Hmm.
living outside of sort of the duality and were spiritual leaders. And the best way to disempower a group of people and dominate them is to remove their connection with spirit, right? Their connection with that sense of higher self. Um, and so I really think gender has continued to do that for us. It disconnects us from our sense of our higher self, our spiritual self, however you want to call it, our divinity that is non dual, our connection with all of humanity that is our non dualness. And it says, oh, actually, you are separate, you're different, and you can only do these certain things. So as soon as a pregnant person finds out the gender, they operate differently in that pregnancy. And just so I know, you've just been through a pregnancy and having a baby and experiencing this first
Sure.
6 months of babyhood. And I imagine you have had plenty of examples and moments of how your pregnancy was interacted with, how your baby has been interacted with based on this label of is it a girl or is it a boy? Right?
Actually, surprisingly, I haven't had too much of the problem. Like other nobody's ever questioned that people just like, oh, he looks so cute, and it's kind of like, I mean, how can you tell? It's a baby.
Yeah, yeah. Have you had people around you want to like use certain colors, or be worried about names, or put on ideas about what your baby is going to be interested in someday that you think might have something to do with gender ideas?
The color pink. Everybody, I am not a fan of the color pink. I like purple. I'm very much of a purple person. And a lot of people were like buying pink clothes. I'm like, please don't buy pink clothes. And like
Yeah.
the whole theme that we went with was like Winnie the Pooh. And I will say that a lot more people went with Winnie the Pooh, clothing. And like when during the baby shower, that's what we really targeted. And that was really surprising to me. I was not expecting that many Winnie the Pooh like outfits.
They really did.
Yes.
They really did go towards more of the gender neutral Winnie the Pooh type
Mhm.
of thing. There, I mean, of course, some of the outfits were more gender like dresses compared to pants or shorts, or there were the clothing, absolutely, and which is absolutely done with all babies. So you got very strongly, and I never really even thought about that, very strongly dresses and very strongly pants, suits, and boys. what, you have the onesies is where you have the color differentiations, but in just the styles of the clothing is literally put on there. And I'm just being honest, like I never thought about that until you just said, which I mean, I always thought about the colors because I've always hated the color pink as well. I'm a purple person, and I don't like purple because of another form of a girl color. I like purple because it meets me spiritually. It's always
Mhm.
met me spiritually. I look at the color purple and I feel it. You know what I mean? I know some people don't understand that, but the ones who do, they're the ones who we're talking to.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. So this is where I like to start the conversation, right? Because so many people don't even think. They're so
yeah,
used to, of
we're
course, I would get a
so
bunch of dresses.
brainwashed and so
Yeah.
wrapped around in the, which I mean, I've always understood the wrap around between the toys, the toys that we offer up. Well, little girls, you offer up little kitchens and dishes and Barbie dolls to dress up, to do hair, to do makeup, to do this and that. Boys, we do more traditional race cars and racing things, bicycles, and more of your the boy type products, or even to the different type of transformers, or I'm not trying to like name off exact brands, but just types of things that they do.
Yeah.
Legos isn't the building blocks,
Yep.
those are the things that but yeah, I've always been aware of that, but not thinking just even just down to the clothing. We didn't
Yep.
think anything. I never thought anything of it.
Yep. Yep. And if you had said, let's say you were having a baby who was assigned male at birth, which is a nice phrase that you can use instead of like boy or girl, is assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth, because that's a distinction that takes gender out of it and just sort of names what the doctor did when that baby was born. I've heard it called genitalia hieroglyphics, because genitalia is not really an indicator of what's happening with chromosomes. There is such variety, and so many folks who are born intersex, which means they may have genitalia that's associated with both sexes. They may have a differentiation of chromosomes. And there's such a wide variety within there that what the doctors decide on the day that somebody comes out and they're all squiggly and blue and, just barely breathing, that's not the whole story in terms of sex. But we can think about assigned male at birth babies and assigned female at birth babies. Sometimes people also use the acronym AMAB or AFAB, to capture those two experiences. And what happens when somebody receives that assignment is a whole ripple effect of the rest of their life. The kinds of clothes that they're offered, the kinds of way that people talk to them. If you have a little assigned male at birth baby and a little assigned female at birth baby, people will walk up to the assigned female at birth, go, "Hi, sweetie, you're such a pretty girl. What a beautiful baby." And they'll walk up to the assigned male at birth baby and say, "Hey, champ, oh, aren't you a tough guy? There you go, buddy," right? It starts right away. And that
Yeah.
language is shaping our experience of what we think about how we are meant to be interacted with, who we are, what we're allowed to say, do, think, feel, play, wear, all of it. And anytime that we, differ from what that assignment is, which is really not about you, right? It's an assignment, it's something that's put on you. You are going to like these things, you are going to act this way, and you're going to be interested in these certain people. It's assigned to you. And for those of us who are coming up in this assignment and we're like, Ugh, I don't want this, right? I don't match this thing that you're telling me. God decided in a lot of religious circles, right? God made you this, so you need to be this, right? that society is saying like you are a healthy person if you act, think, do, wear, enjoy A, B, or C. So it really impacts mental health in the very first years in a different way than a lot of other human experiences do. Because if there's that mismatch and it's coming from not only your society, but oftentimes your parents, your family, your religious community, and you're a little itty bitty tiny person trying to figure out what's going on, it's very much internalized, right? When we're young people, we are just dependent on the adults in a very real way.
Yeah.
And so there's a hierarchy of power. And so young people blame themselves for things because it's not safe to blame the adult. And we see that, people understand that in the experiences of abuse or when parents get divorced, kids blame themselves, right? So with
Yes.
gender stuff, when there's a mismatch, when somebody's coming up and they're going like, I don't know what you mean, I'm a girl, or I don't know what you mean, I'm a boy, or I actually resonate with this other thing and it's not what you're telling me. And they're told, like, nope, that's not the case. This is how God made you. This is what you are. And this is what's true. They're going to internalize. And that's why we end up with such high suicide and suicide attempt rates in the trans community. It's 47% of trans youth will attempt suicide. And that number is so high because it starts so young that we've internalized, right? With other experiences
We
of
don't even
oppression.
realize what we're doing. We
Right,
don't
right.
we don't even realize it. And I mean, there's the people that are going to agree and people are not going to agree. But like in all honesty, we really don't because it is label, 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 label. Like that's
Yeah,
through what you were talking. All I heard was label, 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 label. Let's get the printer out. Let's get the
yep,
label printer out because we're
yep,
just going to keep sticking. Boom, another one on you, another one on you, another one on you. And from what I hear from you is it's more of a for the people that the kids that are growing up that doesn't resonate with those labels that we're printing out consistently throughout every moment of their life. It really creates this confusion and also it just disconnection. Like I can
right,
absolutely see how this disconnection can happen because you're being told no, you like to cook, or no, you like to do dishes, no, you like to play, you like to do this or whatever, even if it's just regular playing with Play-Doh. No, you like to play with Play-Doh, and it's being told time after time after time.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
you just don't even think about it.
And not even that, but we punish kids for going outside of those expectations and assignments, right? So, particularly with kids that are assigned male at birth, if they do anything that's considered feminine, it is punished, right? And that's
Yeah.
just even in, I've seen gay couples raise kids where they're punishing their kids for going outside of gender. It's so just entrenched in the system and within us that we're not just like disagreeing with the child, we're punishing them when they're going outside of this. And so it's very easy to develop a self hatred, a sense of like, I must be deeply wrong about my own sense of self, so I don't trust myself. And
Yeah.
when we don't trust ourselves, and when we hate ourselves, and when we're trying to hide ourselves, it can lead to poor choices, right? Because we're not trusting that guiding instinct that we've been given, that intuition, we're disconnected from it. And so for me, it was not only gender, but also my neurodivergence, my sensory sensitivity, my confusion about social norms. That with both of those things, with my sensory sensitivity, I was told, like, no, these lights aren't bright. You're fine. No, that music isn't loud. Calm down,
I I completely understand that one. Because I'm super
Yeah,
light sensitive. I've got a thing on my screen. I've got the special glasses too.
me
And
too.
yeah, I
Yep,
know that,
yep.
and that like for me it triggers seizures. For me
That's
it
right.
triggers, but I can literally feel the lights through my skin. And
I know.
like it's like wow, and yeah, but the light sensory
Yeah.
and instead being having sensory
Yeah.
overloads really.
Yeah. And when you're told that that's not really happening,
And I'm
it's
an
another
adult.
layer.
And I'm an adult. I'm 47 years old and fighting with doctors going, I'm feeling this is what's happening, and they're like, no, that's not what's happening.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if so with when you're talking to a 6-year-old child,
That's right. That's
wow,
right. Or
the
even a
dismissal.
baby. You know, we dismiss and invalidate babies when we go, you're fine, and they're crying. They're
Uh-huh.
not. They're not fine, right? They're upset about something. Their nervous system is using the tool that they have, which is crying, to say, I need something different. And so, I think with the neurodivergence and the gender disconnect, for me, it was just like day one. I felt like I am really wrong. There's something very wrong with me. And I was also raised around evangelical Christianity. And so there was a message of like happy people are closer to God, right?
Mhm.
And that if you're shiny and you're happy and you're having fun, that it means you're in good relationship with God and God is blessing you. If you're crying in the corner and a mess and confused and heartbroken, like I was for my early childhood, then it was not godly. And so I'm always been a very deep person, which I think is because my transness, my transcestry, as a lot of people in the community call it, is to be that spiritual connecting point. There's a community, a traditional community in West Africa that sees queer people as portals to the divine. And so, because that is built into me, and I think also my neurodivergence makes me more connected to depth and spirituality, to question that, to try to disconnect from that, to try to perform gender, to try to perform neurotypicality, to try to mask in all of these ways, to try to be accepted, really broke my heart. In addition to just making me hate myself, it broke my heart because I knew that my connection with divinity or God or higher self, whatever word you want to use, was so real, and yet I was being told that these
But it
things
wasn't.
about me made it less of a connection, that God hated me or was disgusted by
That is
me.
the one thing that has, from a very young age, for me personally, growing up, I grew up going to different churches on my own. My mom didn't force me. This was like I did it on my own. And
You
so
were
for
exploring.
that searching, exploring, searching, because I wasn't good enough either. You know what I mean? And just in different ways. I was never good enough in
Yeah,
different ways, but it's
yeah,
like you is telling, like you were being told the same thing, like you're not good enough, and that's so
yeah,
not what God or the universe, or
yeah.
whatever you want to use. To me, it's an energy. To
Hmm.
me, God is an energy, not a being, and that's just kind of how I view it. It's an experience that I get to experience.
Hmm.
um but yeah, to be told like that was the one thing that always just drove me nuts, was like, you cannot tell me that somebody that plans a murder is better than somebody that just doesn't quite fit in with the narratives that you want them to fit into. Like, how, like,
Yeah,
are you kidding me? And that is the one thing that's always drove me nuts about the religion in
yeah,
general. It
yeah.
is that, that's not how you gauge. You don't gauge
Hmm.
like that. That is not a correct way to gauge things. And to me, that is a very faltered system that I said, no, at a very young age. I said, I don't care what it's written in. I don't care what that's a very false narrative to me. God, God loves no matter what.
Hmm. Hmm. And that unconditional love
Mhm.
is what is often associated with God. And so it's very confusing to see how people have taken the idea of God and then used it to their own,
conditioned it in
yeah, in,
in
in
so
so
many
many
ways
ways.
for control,
Right, absolutely. For power, for dominance, for
for
control, for
control,
authority. Yep.
for other forms of little things that are that don't that are actually just made up in this world. We all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. I just wanted to point that out, that that is the one thing that just really drove me nuts as a person that really, really, really has a connection. And for people that do have a connection, this is me saying God loves you no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
loves you. And whatever you want to call it, I know that we put gender, and I put gender on God because that's the way I was conditioned in how to speak about it. God is not a gender, but that's the way I was
Yeah.
conditioned and trained in how to speak about it.
Yeah.
So that's why I put gender on it. That's how it's just me still using those same conditions.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so embedded in everything. Gender is in everything. There is nothing that is separated from the training and control and conditioning of gender. It's wild. Um, but yeah, I think it's one of the biggest tools used to oppress us is that anything could get in the way of divinity's love for us, right? Whatever words we want to use. Our connection with the all of everything, with the creative source, with spiritual divinity, whatever you want to say, that connection cannot be severed.
No.
That I am a firm believer. There is nothing that can get in the way of your connection with that unconditional love. And anyone who is telling you otherwise is trying to use that to dominate or control you. That is a lie. And there is nothing, whether it's your gender, your sexuality, your mental health, if you are a person who has attempted suicide, there's lots of people that want to tell you that God doesn't love you because of that, and that that's the worst thing you can do and separates
Right?
you from God, which is totally a lie.
As a
Yeah,
person who has attempted suicide multiple times, and we did a recording not too long ago because I had made an attempt not too long ago. Yeah, hey, just because I run a mental health podcast doesn't mean I have it all together.
I'm with
you know,
you.
right? But it was the CPTSD
Yep,
flashbacks things that happen,
yep,
the spiral, and
yep,
so as a person also growing up being told, well, suicide is the easy way out. That's such a sin. This and that. How can you tell somebody that is hurting that bad
yep,
that they are so wrong for not wanting to be here anymore?
yep,
Because
yep,
you keep telling them that they're
yep.
wrong and that they're that in any way, shape, or form that there's something wrong with them. And I
Right.
can't that's just in so many ways. And I have to say 1:44 on the clock right now, just to uh, just to just to
Oh,
put it out there. Synchronicities all day long.
yeah, there is nothing that can separate us from that
No.
unconditional love because we are that unconditional love.
Yes.
And there's just no way to separate. Separation is an illusion, and
How
anyone
can
who
we
is
be
using
made?
separation.
How can we be made of anything else other than the creator that itself when we are part of the creator? We have we are made of the creator. There's no other particles to be made of. There
That's
are
right.
no other particles in this universe to be made of other than of the creator, whoever you want to deem that to be.
Yeah.
Because I respect everybody in their own, we all have our own personal spiritual journeys that we have to go on. I believe so. I don't diss anybody in their, I don't go, oh, that's not right. Hey, who am I to say? Because
That's
in all
right. We don't know
honesty,
what's going on.
yeah, in all honesty, I'm the one thing I can tell you is I don't really know. I only
Me
know what
too.
I am being led to hear or what I'm hearing in my relationship.
Yeah.
Everybody is here to have their own personal, and that's the one thing I can't stand is when somebody goes, oh, that's not how it is. Please don't do that. Please don't tell me that, because that's just, you don't know what I've been through. You don't know, you can't
Yeah.
tell me what I've experienced and what God
Yeah.
has allowed me, my experiences in that, in spirit,
Yeah.
in divinity.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I'm so grateful that you have connected with the truth that when we are suffering, it is valid to feel like we can't do it anymore. And we, a lot of us aren't able to make it, right? Being on this planet in these bodies is a lot.
Is
And
so much,
I,
yes. This
I really
school is
believe
a
anybody
hard
who
place.
says it's too hard. Yep. I would never make someone do it who doesn't feel like they can do it, right? So yeah, I really, I think I got a very early invitation to to confront this lie of separation and to consider my actual inheritance of oneness, of divinity, of non
Mhm.
duality, that there is no you or me, there's only us. And I think gender and sexuality for me were, and my neurodivergence were a way that I was really given the opportunity to grapple and with and dismantle those ideas early on. I think it would have been much harder for me to leave rigid fundamentalist Christianity if I didn't have this queerness of both my, I consider my neurotype queer as well as my sexuality and gender, because I'm queer for me just means like, I'm not following the rules. I cannot follow the rules. So I
Okay.
just am not. And yeah, so gender was like, do this, be this, wear this, right? And then sexuality was like, you should have romantic feelings towards only this one group of people and want to have physical intimacy with them. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. My neurodivergence made, combined with purity culture of Christianity, made sexuality feel like really scary to me.
I bet.
And I couldn't quite figure it out. And I knew that I had what other people described as romantic feelings for a lot of different people, all kinds of people. And the language that I was exposed to, in the 90s was like you could be a lesbian if you were assigned female at birth and you were not really doing the things that everybody thought you should be doing, that it just meant you were a lesbian. No one was talking
Hmm.
about transgender then. There was no non-binary, right? There was
No,
no queer even.
no,
Um,
yeah. I grew up in
so
the
I was
90s
like,
too, in the 80s and
yeah,
90s, and there was none of that.
yeah, I was like, okay, maybe I'm a lesbian, but like I never connected with that really either. It felt like a too tight of a box. It was like a different box that
Mm,
also felt too tight. And I think that now I understand that like my autism, I just recently got diagnosed with autism. And my autism, I think, makes social really a different thing for me and sexuality a different thing for me. Sensory wise, just like social wise, the whole thing, I was like, ugh, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't do it. Um, so yeah, I tried on that label of lesbian early on. I felt really terrified of exposing myself in that way because I knew I would get kicked out of the church and of my family. And I thought my
oh
family
my
would be like
gosh, yeah.
so deeply ashamed. And so I ended up attempting suicide instead of trying to come out. And then I survived that attempt and I was like, oh gosh. And so I did tell them at that point. And I did lose like everybody I knew from the time I was 22 at the time. So anyone I knew before I was 22 just like stopped talking to me. And I was told that I was like bipolar, borderline, every different mental health diagnosis that they could throw at me, they did.
Yes,
Um, every
I could
medication
go
that they
into a huge
had.
tangent on that one too, but that'll be for a
Yes,
different time.
yes, yes. Well, anything you want to share, you're welcome. But yeah, they tried every medication. I was on all the antipsychotics. I was on all the antidepressants. I was on lithium. I was on the anti-anxieties. I basically took everything and I was a zombie for like 2.5 years. I have like 3 or 4 memories. I failed out of
Right?
school. I couldn't do anything. I just got more depressed because actually on neurodivergent brains, those medications don't work the same. And those diagnoses weren't accurate.
No, they're not. That on those medications, I know that they even state in the commercials that they can increase the thoughts of
They sure
such
can.
thing,
Yeah,
and they
yeah. Which I
absolutely
think,
can.
yeah, I think that led to
In my own
the suicide
experiences,
attempt. Yeah,
in
because
my
I
own
started on
experiences,
the
they did.
antidepressant in my
Yeah.
20s, and they
Hmm.
now are saying like early 20s is definitely like, increases suicidal thinking and suicidal action. And
Yes,
so I
that
think that
especially
I
that age group. Yeah.
might
Yeah,
not have
but
had the attempt if not for the antidepressants in my system. Yeah, yep,
yeah,
for
I
sure.
have to. I'm not trying to get us in trouble or anything, but I have to agree because when I like when you hit your head, they just want to throw a whole bunch of medications at you. Well, they're
Yeah,
throwing a whole bunch of medications at an injured brain,
that's right.
not a
That's right.
yeah, not a brain that it's still trying to figure things out.
Yeah,
Literally, when you
yeah,
have a concussion, your brain literally forgets how to operate. And
yes,
with my concussion, it was so severe. They said that if I hit it any harder, I would I wouldn't have been around.
yep,
Literally, my skull was cracked really bad on top and everything. So when I hit my head, it went through all the regions, all the and so yeah, when you're they threw just the whole bunch of bipolar, this and that guy sitting literally sitting in the room with me for 15 minutes and is
yep,
like, oh, you didn't do that. That's not why you did that. You that
yep,
this is the only reason why. And this, that, and it's like, dude, how did you're taking a glimpse of
yes,
like because this is when the seizures started and I got super depressed when the seizures started because I couldn't being the type of person I am with CPTSD, I get overwhelmed. I need time alone.
yeah,
Being
yeah,
around people too much, I need a little bit of time alone. I get upset.
yep,
I get angry. I have to walk away to cool down. Or if I
yeah,
don't, then I spiral and things
yep,
happen. And I wasn't allowed to because the number one thing is emotions with my type of seizures or with my head injury, emotions are huge triggers, kind of like
that's right.
lights are huge triggers. but
That's right.
but
Yeah. I
yeah,
am glad you brought that up because I also had 3 traumatic brain injuries before I was 3 years old. I had two at 15 months old where I fractured my skull like you, and then I had a third when I was 3 years old. And
that's
the
so
two back to
young.
back were only 2 weeks apart, and it's like second impact syndrome is something where like a lot of babies die if they get that
Yeah,
second one right after. So I had brain injury, I had my neurodivergence, I had
yeah.
my queerness,
I seen that
all
you
layers.
suffer from PCS like I do, the post concussion syndrome. I
Yes, I
say
sure
I
do.
yeah, I'm diagnosed with that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So there's so many layers, right? And when we're
yeah,
being gaslit, like you said, by doctors or misdiagnosed, I was diagnosed with all those things when I was still unconscious in the hospital after my suicide
yeah.
attempt. So they didn't even have a conversation with me.
How the hell did that even like? Okay, that
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, they just saw assigned female at birth, suicide attempt, and in the, early late 90s, early 2000s, that was borderline. That's just where
Yeah,
they went. That's all they had, right?
without any questions, without any talking, and then
Yeah.
as somebody who has suffered multiple brain injuries, that was just my biggest one. I grew up breaking Mustangs, so
Yeah.
literally, you fall off a horse, head land right on a rock,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
Shit, not too long ago, my horse hit me right on top of my head, gave me another concussion.
And once you've had one concussion, you're super more likely to have more. So it just kind of snowballs. But yeah, all of these pieces, it was like the world was trying to control me, because the world
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want us to have big feelings. The world doesn't want us to be sensitive or ask for changes. They want us to be able to go into the factory and do the things that they want us to do and then get out and don't complain. Don't tell me to turn down the lights. Don't tell me that you need special glasses. Don't tell me that you need a break. Don't tell me that you want to love whoever you want to love. Don't tell me that you want to wear whatever you want to wear or have the body that feels right for you. Nope, sorry, we're in charge, right? And so they just put us on meds or lock us up in institutions or shut us down so that we hate ourselves and don't ask or for anything more, right? And the fact that the current society is like ramping up in terms of transphobia and homophobia and sexism, in terms of like how we're limiting reproductive justice, you know, how we're taking away abortion rights, how we're like, there's like 500 laws in Congress right now that are trying to go through that are anti trans and anti queer. And it's not a coincidence, right? We had sort of a swing of society towards being more supportive of individuals, right? To acknowledge that, yeah, there's queer people, yeah, there's trans people, yeah, there's disabled people, yeah, there's people with
Mm-hmm.
mental health stuff. Let's make the world better for them. And those folks who have been controlling us for centuries have swung it back the other direction, right? And they want people who are assigned female at birth to get back into the baby making business, shut their mouths, put their heads down, and just do everything that the dads and the husbands say, right? So it's not a coincidence that people are freaked out about trans people right now, because trans people sort of represent like, you can make all of the laws. You can tell me even that you're going to kill me, but I just physically can't follow your rules. Like, I'm not going to do it, right? The
Mm-hmm.
trans people throughout all of history have been like, sorry, go ahead, like, punish me, kill me, but this is not something that you can take from me. It just is who I am. Um,
Well, I mean,
so yeah,
it takes a lot of decision making and a lot of work to make the decision, period. Like,
I mean, it doesn't actually. There's no decision that
really.
was made. There's no decision
Well,
that was made,
it's just
right?
you. Yeah. It's just
Yeah, I
you.
could. What's a lot of work is not doing it.
Well,
What takes a lot of effort is masking and trying to pretend, right? That's
yeah.
what got me to the point where I wanted to die. Being myself is not hard.
Well, yeah,
Other
yeah,
people have a hard time with it, but it's a breeze to show up as myself. I like 5 years ago I got top surgery, which is like a double mastectomy for gender affirming
Mhm.
reasons. And I I cannot explain it, but my anxiety went from like I have you ever been in an MRI machine? And it's like
Yeah,
super loud
lots.
and clanging and
And
like
clingy,
really
and
stressful and you feel like you're like that.
feel, you can
Yeah.
feel the magnets around the
Yes.
spinning around you. Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
imagine if the only thing you had ever experienced in life was being inside of an MRI machine. And then at 39 years old, someone took you out of the MRI machine and showed you what it was like outside of the MRI
Oh
machine.
my gosh.
That is what it felt like. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like,
Yeah, no wonder you're like, screw everybody else. I don't care what they think.
yes,
It's like, did
it was
the immediate,
immediate.
yeah.
It was so
Wow.
extraordinary and shocking. I used to work in the public schools as a speech pathologist, and it would take me like 8 hours sometimes to write a report because they're like really complicated and really complex and all these things. And this is the like most tangible example I can give people. After my surgery, I like had 2 week recovery and then I went back to work, right? I was writing those reports in like 20 to 45 minutes. And my brain didn't have different skills, but like the amount of noise and interference and anxiety and like intensity that I was experiencing having this stuff on my chest that went away and allowed me to actually like do what I knew how to do. Just I there's it's just
You
so,
just can't explain it. It's
yeah,
just it's the way it
universe
was.
altering.
yeah, it's just the way it is, and that's how your experience, and that there's, nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah,
And that, but it is like absolutely mind-boggling how it would be like that one little thing, and you didn't even understand it. You didn't even understand it until afterwards. You're like, wait a minute, wait, I can do
yeah.
this, I can do that.
And I knew
That's
a little bit that it would help me. Like I had a feeling, a lot of I was anorexic for a good period of time in my teenage years, and a lot of that was related to sensory stuff I had around my developing body. Like the changes that were happening were so sensory difficult for me
hmm
that I was pushing up against them by delaying that development. And once I finally did start eating again and all that like sprung upon me, I started my period, I had these, things in my chest. It was so uncomfortable sensory wise and like so dysphoric is a word that a lot of people use. Um, just like did not feel safe inside my body. That I would say, which is terrible to say, but I would say I wish I had breast cancer so that I could have a mastectomy because I never heard of transgender people. I never heard of top surgery. I didn't know that was
yeah.
something anybody else wanted? And then I
That
found out
that
about
says
it.
that says a lot. That's a
Yeah.
the in what you just said right there. That says, I mean, that's a lot to unpack for some people, right? And then that those few sentences right there, that's a lot for people to unpack to the depths of where you were suffering.
Yeah.
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 Well, I'm very glad that you decided to be you and
Thanks.
get out
Mhm.
of those constructs, no matter what anybody says. You're a beautiful, amazing person, and we have absolutely enjoyed our conversations with you, every single one.
Are there any specific questions that you all have or you think people will be scared to ask? I'm so happy to answer anything.
Love how open you are.
Right? Um, I don't know how to word the question.
I was like, I know
We'll
Giselle
start
has a
it with
question.
you can't offend me, and we're just exploring together. Just say the words,
Absolutely.
and then we'll talk about what the words were.
So when it comes into the trans community, the biological parts of our body where we do have um the reproductive systems. Let me be more specific. How does this come into play? Because we have the scientific terms of everything, of course, but everybody has their own ways of feeling. I respect that. But how do we come into play with the respect of, say, someone
So
like
having a
me who's given
balance.
birth? Yeah, yeah, and having a better balance between it.
Okay, so sorry, what were you going to say? Someone like you who's given birth?
Someone who's like myself who's given birth and to a child and everything, because I have seen people be very how do I put this insensitive to those who have been in those positions, who love who we are. I love that I'm a woman. I appreciate myself. I'm learning to love myself in more ways than one, and everybody should love themselves as you found yourself, and I'm so happy that you did, and I love that other people are finding themselves. How do we bring a better balance to it where we find respect for each other, in all honesty, because that's what I want, is to have a place of love where we can love each other for who we are and who we want to be.
So I guess the question I would ask in response to that is like, if there weren't these ideas of man and woman, would it be stressful to you to have someone be born, uh, let's say, with assigned male at birth? Okay, they have a penis. and they're like, I love my penis and I love dresses and I want to date any kind of person. Like, is there any danger there?
Um,
No, absolutely not.
Is there anything that could harm somebody if they were like, camping and there was one porta potty, if every single person in the campgrounds used that porta potty,
no, not no. Everybody
right?
uses it anyways.
Right, right. So
Except
these
for
are
us,
some
you
of
Brittany. I'm
the,
going in the woods.
yeah, right. I would so much rather go in the woods. So some of it we've been taught to, like, women have been encouraged to take pride in being a woman because society has told us that it's demeaning to be a woman, right?
Mhm.
So the idea of being proud of being a woman is a response to an oppression of the idea of you and your body, right? If that didn't exist, if we take patriarchy and imperialism and white supremacy out of it, then there's not really anything to talk about. If we just have people who get born and then they're like, I like this thing, I like this thing. And as they're babies, we try, the other pieces that we have this like consumerism alongside it. So it's like,
Yeah, there's so
if
much involved.
if I was in a traditional culture, like the baby would just have like one piece of covering that would be for protecting their body, right? We wouldn't have to be like, are you gonna wear a dress? Are you gonna wear a blue? Or it wouldn't be this thing. But if we were just living with bodies and we were like, how can these different bodies, these different humans, like cohabitate? There wouldn't be question marks around like, how do we respect women and allow someone who was told they were women to medically transition, for example. Like, that's not a disrespect to womanhood. That's just an experience of a person in their body, just like other people might dye their hair or cut their hair to express their connection, right? So it gets kind of confusing because we have this idea of man and woman that we're trying to protect. If we let go of the idea of man and woman and don't need that anymore, then I don't think there's any balance that needs to happen. There's a beautiful documentary that Elliot Page has produced called Second Nature. And it's documenting out in the wild how all species of animals have queer and trans representation. Um, there's tons of animals that have same-sex relationships, that have same-sex adoptions, and the most famous example of that is these cute little penguins that there's a children's book about that raised a baby together. There's tons of species that change sex according to the need of the community, and
Mhm.
that are like in all sorts of like gender variants throughout their lifetime. So this is not something that is unique to humans. What's unique to humans is the idea of gender. And what's unique to humans is the idea of keeping people in heterosexual relationships to only mate with one person in a monogamous way and only produce children that are going to follow those same rules. That's unique to humans. That was something that came from um, patriarchy and white supremacy. Just at the end of the day, that is true. If anybody has question marks and wants to like do research on that, you can go check out Alok Menon on Instagram. They have like book report type things on like all of the history of where all of this comes from. But nature, it's balanced. Nature has queer and transness all through it, and it has respect for everyone because everyone's a part of that natural cycle. Did that answer
Mhm.
your question?
Yeah, it does. And my other thing is and this is a very controversial part is we as humans have predators
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to like our children or I mean men rape men, type thing situations.
Yeah, rape culture, right.
Yes, we have the
Yeah.
rape culture that comes into play, and then we have the predators, the pedophiles, and everything that come into play with
Yeah.
it. And as a mom, those are, we have the big one that's going around right now where the father took his two young girls into the bathroom, and how it
To
became an
a
uproar when
woman's
it was just
bathroom.
Yeah.
he was just in there because there's no family bathroom to take them
Right.
in, so he can
Right.
keep them protected. And this
Right.
is something that, and this is not the whole community, this is absolutely not, but there are those who are taking
Yeah.
advantage of it and
Yeah.
transitioning so they can go into the bathrooms and hurt people. And that's where,
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah.
a lot of other people, and I know this is something that's coming into play and
It's a
people think of
fear.
that
Yeah.
Yeah.
fear.
Well, I think it's important to name, and I appreciate you naming it. I would I would love to actually be shown the person who is living as a trans woman in order to take advantage of other women or rape other women, because to live as a trans woman is to have a target on your back, and there is I don't believe it. But show it to me and then I'll consider it. If we didn't have rape culture, again, if we didn't have patriarchy and white supremacy, then we wouldn't have rape culture. So if we're only afraid of trans women because of what assigned male at birth people have done with patriarchy and white supremacy, like we're shooting the wrong person,
Hmm.
right? If we're scared of predators, as using your word, if we're scared of men who have been taught by white supremacy and patriarchy to hate themselves and hate others and to seek dominance at all costs in order to survive, which is a fear response for them, right? They're not evil, they're not predators, in my opinion. They are afraid people who have been taught that the safest thing to do is to
Is to,
dominate others through
yeah.
violence. If we are going to try to protect ourselves from those people by punishing trans women, we're not going to tip the needle very far, because trans women are already um, the victims of that system, right? So
Hmm.
trans women are not here to take advantage of patriarchy. They're actually disassociating from the privileges of patriarchy by embracing the non-duality of themselves. They're saying they're not wanting to be in that role, right, and not be a part of that system, which has punished everyone for having any association with femininity, because femininity is seen as
Weak.
weakness, as property, as um, you know something of no value.
And the best way I can put it is uncollected, up above, or incapable of handling certain things. Because I know there's certain laws that don't, like, there's certain states that don't allow women to get a divorce while they're pregnant because
Right.
they're pregnant, so they're not thinking correctly.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and Texas is one of those states. And when I first heard that, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" So you mean to
Yeah.
tell me that you're telling a woman that she can't get out of an abusive relationship or a divorce of abusive person because it happens because she's pregnant?
Yeah.
Like,
I
wow.
would say for those people that are scared of going to the bathroom and coming across someone who's going to harm them, that first of all, I would want them to get support for their mental health, right? Because living in fear is something that so many people who are assigned female at birth are living with, right?
Yeah.
To confront the grief about living in a world where we know that we are at much higher chance of being harmed just because of the body we were born into. That grief around the imbalance that was created by this patriarchal white supremacist system, right, is something that needs addressing so that we can deal with our own grief and fear, and then come back from the fear state where we actually aren't making decisions, we're just reacting, to come back into our frontal lobe and to be able to say, wow, it looks like we have created a rape culture by adopting these patriarchal, white supremacist systems. And what do we want to do about it as a culture? What conversations do we need to start having if we're afraid to go to the bathroom? Because it's not lock up the trans people, ban them
No,
from our bathrooms. That's not going to tip the
no.
scales very much, right?
All that's going to do is
We,
create more fear around the culture that's already, like you said, got a target on their back.
yeah. So when we are dealing with our own fear, we want to take care of the grief and then see what we can do to be a part of any change that we'd like to see. What kind of world do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a world where it feels safer to go to the bathroom? Uh, Putting up more, laws and bans and criminal creating a bigger criminal justice system hasn't ever made people feel safer,
No, it absolutely
unfortunately.
hasn't. It is, and all it does
Yeah.
is create more ways for them to control us and more ways to make money off of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
And if
all
we want
honesty.
to feel safer about our babies, I think what we might want to offer is some invitation to parents to consider how they're raising their babies, right? And to look at the ways that imposing gender on babies is harmful to all babies, especially those that may grow up to feel like men. If we are telling them, to wipe their face and stop crying and be a man and toughen up, all of the things that I've heard my own kid go through in sports, right? This toxic masculinity. Um, that's where this need for dominance comes from. When we are told that the way to be real is to be dominant and to harm others, then what else choice do we have but to become a part of that?
Or a victim of it. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you for the insight into such a open conversation. It's great to be able to have it with somebody that really truly just comes from a place of love. Like everything you say comes from such a great place of love. And we thank you for coming on and having this conversation. And what absolutely. So do you have any more questions? 'Cause, I mean, you really covered.
Yeah, honestly, and I love the way you explain things and how the perspectives that you put on it. It very much appreciated. Um, no, I don't have any more questions.
One thing I would just also offer is that, the sort of duality or the binary thing of like man or woman is something that a lot of people outside the trans community, but even inside the community, still feel a little stuck on.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if you're not a woman, then you become a trans man. Even my own doctor is a trans man, and he often treats me like I'm trying to be a man, and I'm like, nope, I'm actually non-binary. It's a different path. A lot of people think that all trans people want medical transition, that they want surgeries or hormones. That's not the case. Lots of trans people feel great about their bodies, will never seek medical care, medical surgeries, or hormone. Others do, some want one or the other. Trans people are as unique as cisgender people. We all
Yeah.
have different feelings about our bodies and how we connect with the world. So I just always say, like, you don't know somebody's gender until you ask. You don't know somebody's pronouns until you ask. And anybody is trans if they say they're trans, and they don't have to be trans enough. That's another thing that can happen to people. They think they now need to be like go follow a different set of rules. um
Yeah, right. When
so
it's literally you're trying to
yeah.
take away the rules, not give another set.
Yeah, yeah. So just a reminder that like trans people can look and act just like you, and if they say they're trans, and that that's all that's required.
Well, I think the biggest message is that they're human beings, just like me and
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
And they should be treated as such.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And I
Oh.
really hope that we can have you back on again. I would love to talk more about CPTSD. A lot of
Mm-hmm,
people,
mm-hmm,
that's a conversation that we've been talking more about.
mm-hmm.
And um, yeah, absolutely appreciate you. And I love your energy. You're so
Ah.
amazing.
Yes.
I'm so grateful we got to have this conversation. Thank you for your openness. Thank you for your willingness and vulnerability to ask questions that may have been uncomfortable. And I hope you all know you have just an open door to me anytime. But anybody else also, I have like a free call that you can sign up for on my website. I have a contact form. Anyone can reach out to me with any question. There's no bad questions. Anybody who just wants to talk more about, like, I don't understand this gender stuff, I just would be delighted to connect with anyone. No stupid
Thank you
questions.
for being that and doing that because there is a lot of confusion and I think amongst in the confusion is a lot of emotions that don't really
That's right.
belong because of the confusion.
Yeah, the fear, we've been
Yeah.
taught to be so afraid, and that's another way that we become more
Control,
controllable.
control, 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 control.
Yep,
It's all about
yep,
control. Well,
yep.
everybody, thank you for looking into the glass one more time. Thank you, Z, for having this wonderful conversation, and I know that we'll have you back on for sure. Because God, it just flows so wonderfully with you. If you are out there and you're wanting to get your story out there, we absolutely respect the fact that you may want to remain anonymous. You can still reach out to us at 12 looking through THRU 34 theglass@gmail.com. You can reach out to us on we have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all those other things. You do not have to have a name to the story for it to have an impact and for it to impact somebody else. You never know. You may have a survival guide in your head for somebody else. Thank you for looking into the glass.